Thank you for joining us this Saturday evening. I'm Sarah Horbacewicz. Now near 60s this weekend, 70 even on Monday, and now we're back down to the 40s on Tuesday for weather. So quite the roller coaster ahead. But don't worry, meteorologist Corrales Ortiz is here to break it all down for us. Corrales, how are we supposed to be dressing this weekend?
This weekend is actually going to be feeling more spring-like. Today was a beautiful day overall. We saw temperatures anywhere from upper 40s to mid 60s, and yes, it's going to be a little bit of a temperature roller coaster as we continue on into next week. We're going to continue to be warming on up. But here's a look at what we saw for today. Beautiful Saturday. We saw a high around 57 for us here in Little Rock. To our south, they were around the low to mid 60s. I'm a little bit jealous of them, but it was a little bit cooler to our north and east, a little bit closer towards where that placement of the cold air mass was. And right now we're sitting at 51 here, still in the 50s and 60s to our south, but already dipping into the low 40s to our north and east. Temperatures will be dropping to around freezing tonight, not as chilly as what we saw last night, but still pretty cold overall as we drop to around the low 30s. So as I mentioned, a little bit of a temperature roller coaster. Here's what to expect in the upcoming forecast. We're still going to be pleasant all weekend long, as continuing to see a gradual warm up, seeing the return of 70s, but we also have a bit of a wet weather pattern next week. We can see anything from the potential for some storms, even an icing a possibility later into next week. So I'll talk more about the timeline of that and what to expect in the forecast ahead.
And developing this evening, Conway police are searching for answers after an early morning shooting left one man dead. Officers got a call this morning for someone laying on the ground at an apartment complex on Rich Smith Lane. When they arrived, police determined the person on the ground died from a fatal gunshot wound. Investigators have not released any more information on the victim or any possible suspects, but you can stick with us here at THV11 and we'll continue to update you on this story on our website at thv11.com. Now, solving violent crime in Little Rock is not an easy thing to do, but the city's hoping they can start to fix it with something simple, a conversation, a courageous conversation. That's the name for a forum where city officials and community members could talk openly about how they can address this rising crime. THV11's Ian Russell was there and has more from some members of the community about why this means so much to them.
It's tough to have conversations about how violent crime affects us here in Little Rock, but here at Second Baptist Church, that's exactly what happened Saturday. And for two members of the community, they're using the memories of the past to inspire change in the future.
And it won't get solved until we can get several viewpoints and several ideas from each side to try to make things better.
Yolanda Harrison is at church Saturday, but not to pray. She's here looking for solutions and answers.
Because they are involved more now, and I'm so happy that the city has decided to try to do more.
She's one of almost 100 community members coming together for a courageous conversation. It's a discussion with different groups and organizations at the heart of trying to solve the crisis of violent crime in Little Rock.
But others are here just because they have a love for the community, and it really means a lot to me as a mother.
Harrison knows how this affects her community firsthand. She lost her son a couple years ago. Now that pain is what's driving her to be here having these discussions.
It helps me to cope, and it helps me to move forward and to, gives me strength to knowing that I can help someone else.
Ron Watson is there for the same reason, helping someone else. He runs Had To, a program to mentor kids to help them finish school. They go to schools and speak with kids about the importance of getting that diploma.
Education, to me, is the primary key to safening our street. When you're uneducated, you can't make an educated decision.
And he knows that these conversations are the starting point, but this won't get solved unless the community takes action.
Put it on the line. Service is not just in a building. Service is outside of the building. It's when you reach out to someone and say, hello, how can I help you?
And at the end of the day, this forum isn't an immediate fix. It wasn't designed to be, but it's a starting point, a conversation to kickstart a safer city.
Everyone is fed up, just like I am fed up, and like so many other mothers or fathers who are fed up of the violent crimes that are going on in the city. So that really makes us all feel good that, everyone wants to step in and do their part now.
In Little Rock, Ian Russell, THV11 News.
And organizers say they're looking forward to having more of these conversations in the future, all for the same goal, to create a safer city. Internationally, there's been a sharp spike in violence in eastern Ukraine. The U.S. has long warned Russia might use a violent incident as a pretext for invasion. And now President Biden is convinced that Russia is planning to attack Ukraine's capital city over the next few days. Michael George has more.
Russia flexed its military muscle Saturday, conducting massive nuclear forces drills, overseen by Vladimir Putin. The Russian president says this was planned some time ago, and it's nothing to worry about. But there's been an uptick in shellings in eastern Ukraine. Rebels loyal to Russia have evacuated thousands of Ukrainians to Russia, claiming they are being threatened by Ukraine's military. A U.S. defense official says half of the approximately 190,000 Russian troops along Ukraine's border are attack-ready. Friday, President Biden predicted Russia will strike Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, in the next few days, a city of about 3 million people.
If Russia pursues its plans, it will be responsible for a catastrophic and needless war of choice.
At the annual Munich Security Conference, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called on Putin to meet with him. Zelensky did meet Vice President Kamala Harris, who assured him the U.S. stands with Ukraine.
If Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States, together with our allies and partners, will impose significant and unprecedented economic costs.
Zelensky wants those sanctions imposed immediately because he says the current situation is destroying Ukraine's economy. In one eastern town, residents waited in a long line for the only ATM they could find still dispensing cash. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
A U.S. official says they've not changed their position on holding back sanctions until after Putin acts. If you commute through downtown Little Rock, you might have to look at changing your typical route. Starting in March, President Clinton Avenue will be closed below I-30 for about 5 weeks. It's part of the 30 Crossing project, and drivers will have to follow the detour shown right here on your screen, which will take you to 3rd Street instead. Now, if you're a parent or caretaker for babies, there's a formula recall you need to know about. One that health officials say could be tied to cases of bacterial infection. The powder formulas impacted by the recall includes Similac, Antilamon, or Elecare powdered infant formulas. Here's what the FDA says you need to look out for. First, check the bottom of the container to see if the first 2 digits of the code are 22 through 37. Then see if that same code contains K8, SH, or Z2. And lastly, see if the expiration date is April 1st, 2022 or later. If the formula you have right now has any of these indicators, health officials say throw it out. And the Food and Drug Administration is warning the public of contamination of foods, cosmetics, and other products at Family Dollar stores in 6 states, including Arkansas. The FDA says a distribution facility in West Memphis had unsanitary conditions, including an infestation with thousands of rodents, as well as dead birds. One regulator said no one should be subjected to products stored in the kind of unacceptable conditions we found in this Family Dollar distribution facility. They also said that, quote, these conditions appear to be violations of federal law that could put families' health at risk. And some of the affected products include foods, pet foods, cosmetics, skincare products, medicine, and supplements. The public is urged to throw these items away. More details are available at fda.gov. Now, amid the spread of COVID-19, the federal government is making 400 million free N95 masks available to Americans who want them. But where were those masks made? Ariane Datil with our National Verify team looked into that viewer question.
You can pick up free N95 masks at tens of thousands of pharmacies and health centers across the country. It's part of the Biden administration's plan to make items like masks and tests more accessible to Americans amid the spread of COVID-19. All of the masks in the program are approved by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. NIOSH-approved masks meet minimum construction performance and respiratory protection standards. Since the free mask program was announced, Verify has received a lot of questions about where these masks were made. So let's verify. Are the free N95 masks from the federal government manufactured in the U.S.? Our sources are the Department of Health and Human Services, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Strategic National Stockpile, and the Buy American Act. HHS, the CDC, and a spokesperson for the Strategic National Stockpile say the N95 masks that the federal government is sending out were made in the U.S. On the HHS website, it states, these American-made N95 masks are being distributed from the Strategic National Stockpile. According to the SNS, the masks in the stockpile adhere to the Buy American Act, which requires the federal government to buy American-made goods whenever possible. The law calls those goods domestic end products. The Buy American Act uses a two-part test to determine if an item is a domestic end product. 1, the article must be manufactured in the United States. And 2, excluding iron and steel products, the cost of domestic components in the product must exceed 55% of the total cost of all the components. But there is one caveat. If the government is purchasing a commercially available off-the-shelf product, like these masks, then Part 2 is waived. Legal experts in the field say that means a product that is purchased by the government under the Buy American Act could have components that were made in other countries. But those pieces would have to undergo a significant manufacturing process in the U.S. to qualify under the BAA. A full list of the mask manufacturers and models in the stockpile is listed on the CDC website. Verify reached out to all 4 manufacturers, and we can verify that yes, all of the free N95 masks supplied to the federal government were manufactured in the U.S. With your Verify, I'm Ariande Till.
Live look across the metro as the sun begins to set. It was a beautiful start to the weekend, and we have a much nicer forecast to end it, but enjoy it while it lasts. We have lots to talk about in the forecast, what to expect for next week. Looking wet. Your forecast is coming up.